Assalamualaikum.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Two Peas in a Podcast with me, Mariam, and my fellow host, also Mariam. You've already said salam. How are you today, Mariam?
Alhamdulillah, I'm good.
How's your Ramadan going?
Yeah, just surprised that it's flown by so fast.
I think it's the same every year, but this year, we'll probably say this every year as well, but it really feels like it's flown. Like within a blink of an eye, it's gone. SubhanAllah. Allah accept it from all of us. And grant us the ability to see another Ramadan, inshallah. How's your Eid prep going?
Yeah, so I'm splitting the cooking with my mum. So my mum's gonna do some cooking, like the main dishes, even though I don't mind doing them. But she's mama duck, so I'm gonna do dirty type of stuff, and some like startery type of stuff, still quite a lot. And we're also gonna make sure that it's like reverts, on you. They're always like feel left out at Eid time, so we've invited like 5 of them round to my mum's house.
MashaAllah, Allah reward all of you, and especially your mum. Auntie is the most loveliest, wonderfulest auntie you could ever meet. So Allah reward her too. I mean,
how about you? How's your Eid?
Good. So the food has all been prepped, alhamdulillah. So it just needs to be cooked. One of my sisters is bringing like the samosas and the startery bits. My other sister is bringing all the desserts, and so alhamdulillah, we're pretty much done. Presents, I'm that annoying person. I always have my presents, cards, everything done before even Ramadan. But this year, I think everybody's been feeling slightly off this year, and it's all a bit last minute. So got the presents to wrap, and then just laying the table now and putting decorations up and things, all the fun stuff. So alhamdulillah, it's going well. Actually, I wanted to say, I don't know if this is appropriate to say or on this platform, but if anybody's looking for Eid cards, I found some in Card Factory.
Eid cards
is always really difficult. Yeah, it's always really difficult to find Eid cards unless you buy them online and all that kind of stuff. But I was just having a little nebby round because I haven't been since lockdown kind of was lifted, and I saw a whole range of Eid cards. So I was like, if any of you are looking for Eid cards, then there were really like reasonably priced selection of Eid cards. I don't know if that's like promoting somebody, or I don't know how the legalities work, but yeah. So I got a few Eid cards as well last minute, which is rather nice. I usually make mine, but as I said, this year has been a little bit of a slow kind of year, so I just bought them instead. So that was rather nice. And I just also think that it's nice to kind of encourage it. So if obviously the more that you buy, the more likely they are to restock them next Eid. So it's good to kind of support people that are selling Eid cards and that kind of thing, because a lot of the bigger companies, unfortunately, a little bigger card stores weren't doing them this year and don't often do them. So it was quite nice to see that. So yeah, so that's that anyway. So welcome to the show. In the series we actually tried to summarize the key points of some really popular personal development books. So we've done Atomic Habits. We did Atomic Habits, and we attempted to do that in an hour in one show, and we realized very quickly that probably wasn't the most practical. So what we've been doing is we've been covering the 4-day work week, which I really enjoyed. And Mariam, do you think that you benefited, or any like nuggets of information that you thought would be quite helpful for you? Nothing in particular, just generally.
I've just double checked. It's called the 4-hour work week, not 4-day.
Oh my goodness, I've been saying 4-day. It is 4 You said 4 hour as well last week, and I was like, no, it's 4-day. There you go. Fasting brain.
Yeah, so this is by Tim Ferriss, isn't it?
Yes.
Just, do you know what? I think I need a recap to help me remember everything that we covered, because this is actually our 5th show, I believe. So
yeah, it is
that we've actually covered, and my brain's like.
That's fine. Fasting brain. I'm exactly with you. Today, inshallah, we're just going to summarize just the whole series and maybe recommend some other books that, some of which I haven't read, some of which are on my, what is it? There's an acronym for it. Yeah, there's a very trendy, social media kind of. Is it to be read? TBR?
Oh, right.
But like a TBR, to be read list, as well. But yeah, so I think all in all, I think the show, we've had some fantastic interactions. So do get in touch. Mariam, actually, before we start, do you want to tell the listeners how they can get in touch and comment?
Yeah, so you're probably listening right now via the Facebook stream or the YouTube stream. Possibly you're probably listening through the Twitter if it's live on Twitter, or via Twitch as well. So the best way to get in touch is using the comments section, and then we can see the comments as well on our side, and we can see whether you're interacting via YouTube or Facebook primarily.
Jazakallah khair. And also, tell us where you're from as well. It's just really interesting to know where we're getting listeners from, out of curiosity. So do you put, after you comment, just put whereabouts you're from as well. So yeah, so the 4-day work, I'm going to keep calling it the 4 days, the 4-hour work week is the book that we discussed. And the key idea in the book was the difference between being old school and new school, but what Tim Ferriss refers to as the deferrers and the new rich. So having a new rich or a new school way of thinking, and he writes various rules and gives various examples of how to be the new rich. And I think he emphasizes a lot on the value of time as well as money, and that money isn't the be all and end all, and that we can actually have a rich life without having a lot of money. I think that's kind of the gist. Does that sound familiar? Would you agree with that from what you can remember? Yeah.
The importance of how time is money, and if we sacrifice our time, we're actually sacrificing other options in terms of having financial freedom. So that by having financial, it's a catch-22 situation.
Yeah.
By having financial freedom, you're going to be able to afford to have more time in your life to do the things that you want. Whereas if you sacrifice your time, then you're going to be sacrificing other options in terms of being able to be financially free. It's like a balancing act, isn't it, between time and money?
It is.
Depends what's got its more worth and value to you.
Exactly. And I think that's a really good point. I think another point he says is, or he writes about, is the fact that you can have, as I said, a really rich and fulfilling life without having to be filthy rich. Like a lot of the things that we want to experience is a lot closer than we think. And he talks about creative ways of thinking and that kind of thing. Also, another point he talks about is working smarter, not harder. And this is where the deferrers differ from the new rich. The deferrers, the older, not necessarily the older generation, but the old school way. The people that think in the old school way are like, work hard till you retire, then relax, but don't have any fun along the way. That's a bit of an extreme kind of way of saying it, but pretty much like just work really, really, like grind hard, and then you can relax after retirement. Whereas the new rich way of thinking is to actually, it's like you said, it's about balance. It's not about completely giving up responsibilities and having all the fun and experiences and not working hard, but then it's not going to the other extreme of, you know, working solidly and not enjoying your life. So it is that balance of both. I think the key word there, Mariam, is balance. I think that you've hit the nail on the head.
Mariam, can I ask you a question, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sort of related to the concepts that we're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
but what's your views on the concept of quotation marks, free time? Do you know when people say they've got free time?
Yes, I love this. This is a good question because Mariam knows that I'm a bit obsessed with time. It's everything to do with time. And it's just I really am, and I don't think there's such thing as free time. Like, we're going to be held account for every minute that we spend. So I don't think there's such thing as free time. Now, don't get me wrong, resting, people might think, oh, well, what I mean by that is that we always have to keep busy. But resting, that is actually doing something productive. You need to rest your body, you need to recharge. You know, sitting with your family, socializing with your friends. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't do any of these things. All of these add value to your life. But I think that there's no such thing as free time in the sense of this is like spare time. This is extra time. I don't think we have that luxury. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Kind
and also
yeah.
the fact that, you know, when people plan for the future and they plan the future, or they dream and they have ambitions of what they want their life to look like, they don't realize that actually the stuff that you do now is going to impact what you're doing 5 years in the future. So in the future, 2 years in the future, you know, when people regret not having started a task earlier, like, oh, I'll start investing in my 20s, but they don't start until they're in their 30s, type of thing.
And I can, sorry, go
Yeah,
on.
and
Yeah.
that's it. Yeah, you're compounding your time, and you don't realize actually that what you're doing today is going to impact what's happening in the future. So if you I don't know, there's a term I use, but it's not appropriate for being on air. There's a term when you yeah, do you know when you just waste your
When you
time?
waste your life away.
You know, I think you know what I was going to
I
say.
know what you mean.
But when people waste their time in terms of being frivolous with it, not being fruitful with it, thinking, oh, I can start this thing later, I'll do it later, I'll put it off, I'm going to procrastinate, then you don't realize actually you're going to blink and 5 years goes by and you're still in the same position that you were in 5 years ago. If that makes sense.
And I'll put that on the flip side. I'll turn that over and say that you're not even promised tomorrow, so you're planning ahead. You're planning you're planning for 5 years, 10 years, as you said. You might not even be here tomorrow, so I know it's a bit cliche, but it's true. Live every day like it's your last. That's the way you're going to live it the fullest. And I think that if you plan too much into the future, like, oh, for example, the deferrer's way of thinking of, I'm gonna enjoy myself. I'm gonna spend time with my family. When I've got to a certain point in life, or when I'm a certain age, or when I've retired, or I'm gonna take that trip that I've always wanted to do. Later on, after I've done this. It's not about that. It's like, yeah, you can plan for 5 and 10 years time, and you're right. After procrastinating, you might just find that you're in the same place. But again, like I said, you might find that you're not even there in the first place. And so you should really make the most of the time that's been gifted to you, because time is truly a gift. It's a gift more than any material thing or money you can, any amount of money that you can have. And so I think that you should make the most of it. Again, it goes back to balance, being responsible, planning, and you should plan for the future as well. Obviously, that you've got to tie your camel and you've got to be responsible, but at the same time, don't put things off, because we're not promised tomorrow. If you want to do these things, you make that trip, you want to, especially when it comes to like things that are going to benefit you in the akhirah, like, oh, I'm going to take that Islamic course, or I'm going to do that charity project, or I'm going to, whatever it may be, you should never hold off a good deed. And most things that we do, if we do it with the intention of pleasing Allah, can be a good deed. So that can be like, starting a business so that you could feed your family and give sadaqah and all that kind of thing, or like we said, like studying the deen a lot more, anything like that. Don't, like Mariam said, don't procrastinate, because what you were saying, Mariam, is you procrastinate, you'll still be there in 5 years, and then from my point of view, you might not be there at all. So yeah, so that's a very, very valid point, Mariam. Yeah, time is precious, and I just think that I think it's just going so fast. Probably it's an age thing, I don't know. But you do find people that are a lot. It used to be that it was only the older generation that would say that, but now you do hear a lot of younger people now saying that, yeah, there's just no value in time. Time's just flying by. And I think there's not often a lot of barakah in people's time as well, which is really, really important. I think Mariam and I have decided actually that we're going to, inshallah, continue the show if possible, and do like a readers group type situation where we can all read a book, one book, and then discuss it, because we've had such fantastic interaction that we really want you to be more involved, inshallah. So there are lots of books and techniques. For example, I don't know, Mariam, have you heard of time blocking? Time blocking is super helpful.
Yeah, is that where you have a diary or a calendar and you literally plan out? Is it like 5-minute blocks or 1 hour blocks? And then you map out the entire day. Is that right?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. It varies from like person to person, but generally speaking, that's how it is. I find that is actually a great technique. If you actually just put into YouTube time blocking how to, there are some really fantastic videos out there, and I found that prior to learning about time blocking, I would try and do schedule my day hour by hour, but it just meant that if one thing kind of took more time, it would have a knock-on effect. Whereas with time blocking, I won't go into it too much, but with time blocking, it's a little bit more flexible. Things can be moved. You have a whole block to do. It's not as specific. It's a bit more general and a bit more flexible. So I highly recommend those people wanting to manage their time a little bit better, to look into time blocking, because it's a really, really clever way of kind of organizing your time. I mean, I think we spoke a few weeks ago about bullet journaling as well. That is not so much for me. I would love to be a bullet journaler. Again, something that we'll talk about inshallah in future shows, but just YouTube bullet journaling. Bullet journaling was started by a man called Ryder Carroll, and it's his technique of managing your time and your schedule through lists. And as a list maker, that really appeals to me, but I don't know, the way that a lot of people do it now can seem quite overwhelming, and so for me it can be a bit counterproductive. Pardon?
It's become more of an art form and just more of a thing. I feel like in terms of like for show rather than practicality. Because I felt overwhelmed when I tried to keep up with the whole bullet journal stuff. I was spending like honestly over about £100 on fancy pens and highlighters and the brand new bullet 1917 Leichmann dotty pads, and still got them, brand new and sealed. Because I remember doing my first bullet journal and being like, oh, I did find the benefits in a bullet journal. Actually, there were some really good things in terms of. I really like the concept of all your notes together, and I remember learning about. I remember learning about. That doesn't make sense. That sentence. Do you know like how basically we compartmentalize lists, and I had like shopping list, cleaning list, this type of list, to-do list, and the whole purpose of the bullet journal was to bring all formation. To formate is not a word, is it? Oh God, we should
formulate?
do it.
Is that the word you're looking for?
We should do a whole session on a dictionary lesson, man, for me.
I'm blaming it on fasting brain. When Ramadan's over, we'll look for another excuse. But for now, I'm using fasting brain for all my fogginess.
So we should formulate all of our thoughts into one place, so it's not compartmentalized, and it makes you more productive in that sense. I mean, in principle, it's actually really good. I think I probably would return back to it, but more for in a neutral.
Minimal.
Yeah, don't have to worry about the fancy artwork and making it look pretty.
I have a lot of friends that do bullet journaling, and 99% of them do the fancy schmancy creative illustrations and page layouts, and they're gorgeous. I mean, even if you didn't want to actually start bullet journaling, if you just look into bullet journaling videos, they're so satisfying. Especially for those that love like stationery and are a little bit creative. However, I do have a few friends that keep it very minimal, it's very stripped back, practical, none of the illustrations, none of the fancy pen work. And I think I would like to do it. It is like you said, it's compartmentalizing your life, but also bringing everything together. Especially for a person like me, I have my fingers in many, many different pies. So I like to enjoy lots, doing different projects, and then I have work and different creative projects and all this kind of things. It's nice just to have it all in one place. Now I'm convincing myself to start it again. I was really convinced that I wouldn't do it, but now I'm talking about it, I'm like, maybe I should do it. Maybe we'll try it together, inshallah. Because I can never keep up. I just like to. I'm that kind of like make a list, scribble it out, and that's it. Bish bash bosh, job's a good one. But yeah, there are so many different techniques out there, so many different ways to manage your time and to be more productive, and all of these things. As I said, this show is just a general summary of the series with a bit of waffle added to it. I think. I don't know about Mariam, but I am very, very beat. Alhamdulillah, I'm so grateful to have been given another opportunity to experience Ramadan and to be able to fast. But I must admit, I think I'm at a point now where the fogginess, the brain fog is real. So I think, we'll just waffle a little bit. I will also, though, throughout the show, go through a few of the points that did stick out to me. With the 4-hour work week, not the 4-day work week, subhanallah, 4-hour work week. But yeah, I think a lot of
Salah, how dare you?
I know, it's just so shameful. But I'm blaming it on Ramadan brain. My answer to everything for the next how many hours? Few hours. I've only got a few hours to like use that excuse, so I'm just gonna milk it throughout the show and the rest of the afternoon. But yeah, I think going back to the book, I mean, there's a list of other books as well that what we were going to do is we were going to post the list for you all to read, and we may still do that, but now we're thinking about continuing the show. We might just do them month by month, because there are an amazing collection of books that are, a lot of them are actually really accessible. the Atomic Habits was a really easy read, and the 4-hour work week seems that way too. It's broken down quite nicely. I like when things have like 8 rules or certain points, so it's quite easy to digest. So we will definitely be touching on and summarizing and discussing other books as well. But yeah, other points to the 4-hour work week was let me have a look. There's the 8 simple rules that Tim Ferriss says that you need to follow. And those were, let's have a look. So we've talked about having balance. That's essentially what that one was. You mentioned procrastination, and that kind of goes along with his third point of the timing is never right. So the procrastination, putting things off, and it goes back to the quote he said, which was, waiting for someday, like, oh, someday I'll do this, someday I'll do that. Waiting for someday will take your dreams to the grave. And it's kind of what you said before, Marium, about, if you're going to put things off, you're going to end up just pushing them back. And I know that's what I've done with my projects for years. There's always been something that's been more important. And it was only thanks to lockdown it really gave me the time to prioritize other projects, which actually, now that I've kind of started, wish I had done them such a long time ago. Like you said before, it's that regret of how far I would have been if I'd started earlier. So yeah, so there's definitely that. There's a few other books as well, actually. The ones that have come to mind. There was another book that I actually haven't read, but has been recommended, and it's called, let me see if I can find it, Anything You Want by Derek Sivers. And it's an essential, there's 40 lessons for a new kind of entrepreneur. Now, apparently it doesn't just apply to, if you want to start a business or being an entrepreneur. It's the lessons apply to life as well. So you can kind of, they just have that crossover, and the lessons can be applied universally. And I've heard that you can gain a lot from reading this book. It's quite a beneficial one, so that we'll definitely reference it again afterwards. But it's by Derek Sivers, and I think he was an independent musician. I think he started a big business in the 90s, and it skyrocketed. And he did really, really well for himself and decided to write this book. He had like 85 people under his employment, had about $100 million in revenue. So he did really, really well for himself. So, I mean, I think the benefit of reading these kind of books is that you get to learn from people that have experienced it. You'll learn, you have people that have experienced, made all the mistakes, gone through all the hard work for you. So I think it's really beneficial reading these books to get those bits, those nuggets of information and beneficial kind of lessons. So yeah, we definitely, I think, Marium, do you know any of your to be read list? Do you have it to hand? Can you think of any books that you have on your to be read list?
Oh my days! Oh,
it's never ending. Yours is mine is long, but yours is never ending. Like, subhanallah.
Yeah, do you know why? Because half of them I've actually ordered, and the other half I'm still yet to order. There's still hundreds of pounds worth of books that I need to buy. I'm interested in reading right now are more about like psychology and behavior and learning the work. So, for example, I've got a book. These are some of the books I've already bought, which are downstairs, ready to get read. And one book called Read, but it's by Patrick King. It's called Read People Like a Book: How to Analyze, Understand, and Predict People's Emotions, Thoughts, Intentions, and Behavior, and How to Be More and Charismatic. So
that's really interesting. That kind of goes hand in hand with personal development, because in order to develop yourself, understanding other people is such an important skill in life. So it kind of it goes really well with the other books. So yeah, go on. What else are you reading? Or is on your list?
Yeah, so these ones I've bought so far. The Defining Decade, your 20s. Why your 20s matter and how to make the most of them now. That's another one that I've bought, and that is by what's the face called? Meg J.
Okay.
And
I've heard of that one.
Yeah, it's a green cover, I think. Yeah,
I might recognize the cover, but
I'll have to show you. Mine. I should just share you my Amazon list, really.
Oh yeah, you should actually. Yeah, let's do that afterwards, inshallah.
Well, the next one is quite not controversial, but there's a lot of people on things like TikTok, because I found out about some of these books from TikTok and stuff. Do you know when people give the 60-second sort of 60-second life advice pieces on TikTok, right? And they get something from a book. So this one I've actually heard from online, and it's called The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. Modern Machiavellian Robert Greene. Basically, controversial in the sense that some people say you can use it to manipulate people, but I'm not obviously not bought for that reason. It links back into the emotions and how you can be a better person in terms of communication, in terms of how to run your conversations, in terms of how to have an intentional conversation, how to be more relational to people. For those reasons, I think certain things like these types of books really interest me. That's something I'm really looking forward to reading as well. Other ones more to do like with family sort of dynamics. So there's another book called It Didn't Start With You. And this one is about how family trauma can shape who we are and how to end the cycle. So do you know how people can inherit trauma through family?
That's really interesting.
That's by Mark Woolen. So that's another one. I've got Surrounded by Idiots, which I'm currently reading.
Yeah, I saw that on your desk. Yeah, I actually want to read that. I'm pretty sure I might have a copy of that. I don't know if it's...
You probably have. I
do.
So Surrounded by Idiots is by Tomik Erickson. Another one that we've already mentioned before that everyone recommends in terms of financial literacy is Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Oh, yes. I really want to read that. That's high on my list.
Yes. Other things in terms of, do you know how people say it's really good to have a gratitude journal?
Yes.
How to not be more wise, but how to think in terms of how to live, the art of living, how to see things in a new, fresh perspective, a perspective that you might not have considered before. I've got another one called, in that regards, The Daily Stoic, which is...
Oh, yes. That's another one on my list. I've heard that's really good. Yes. A lot of the productivity people that I watch online recommend The Daily Stoic.
Yes. Actually, someone, Niyama Griffin has put, yes, from Stephen Covey, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People is an absolute must read. I've actually got that downstairs in my room.
I've got that too. Great recommendation. That is a really good one. I've heard good things about that. I've got that in my stash.
Yeah, you got actually helped me get that copy actually, Marium, I think. Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. So Niyama Griffin's given some really good recommendations. I think that's on my list actually somewhere, on my wish list, I think.
There's a on TikTok, there's lots of like finance people, and there's one guy that I follow, the layman.
Yeah, the layman. Yeah, Rahul Rahi, the layman investor.
Yeah, that the layman investor. Yeah, and he gives a lot of recommendations. He recommends often a certain like 5 books that he regularly recommends, and I think that's one of them. The Rich Dad, Poor Dad is definitely one of them, and then there's the other one that you just mentioned. I can't remember what it's just called, but the one that you just mentioned.
Yeah. RMH has put Atomic Habits mark. Yes, RMH, if you're still listening, we actually discussed that in the very first week of Ramadan. So if you've missed out on some of the previous shows, you can still find them on YouTube and stuff.
And also because we decided to do that in one show and quickly realized, as I said before, that it probably needs more time. It's something that we might cover again. So keep an eye out for that in our productivity book club, whatever we're going to call it. How decided I think we're going to do Atomic Habits again, because it's brilliant. It's definitely one spending a bit more time on, inshallah.
Actually, there's another book, right? This is one of the books that was on my wish list for ages. You probably have heard of it. There's over 3 million copies sold worldwide. It's called
intriguing.
The Courage to Be Disliked: How to Free Yourself, Change Your Life, and Achieve Real Happiness, by Shiro Kishimi.
No, I haven't. Or maybe I recognize a lot of the covers because I work with books. I'm a very visual person. Often if I see the cover, I'll recognize it, but that's not ringing any bells. It sounds fascinating though.
Yeah. You know what? You probably will have seen the cover and you probably will recognize that afterwards.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at the rest of my list. Emotional Intelligence is a book by Emotional Intelligence and Why It Can Matter More Than IQ. Is a book by Daniel Goleman. So that's another one that I was like, I need to read it. Reaching Down the Rabbit Hole: Extraordinary Journeys into the Human Brain.
I think I've heard of that one.
Yeah.
I think
Sunday
maybe through you, maybe. Did we buy
probably.
that one together?
No, I got this off Amazon. So this is the Sunday
Oh,
Times top 10 bestseller.
oh,
So
sounds
many, man,
familiar.
so many. Subhanallah.
I've got a few that were recommended, and so one of them's subhanallah, the motivation myth by Jeff Hayden, and it's how high achievers really set themselves up to win. So that's on my list. I
Wait,
think
can I write this down? I need to have a look. Sorry, the motivation myth.
I will send you the link.
Okay.
I'll send you it right now. No, I won't. I'll send you the link. I can't multitask. So actually, before I start reading off my list, just to say the reason that I've actually been able to read a lot more is because I've been reading audiobooks. I was never into audiobooks. The only time I actually got into audiobooks was when if I was reading fiction and it was more like an audio, like a radio play where it had like sound effects and different voices and things like that. Otherwise, I could never really get into them. But I actually found that with non-fiction and books of this nature, listening to an audiobook has actually been really easy and actually enjoyable. Also, I do a thing, and I've actually seen a few other people do this. It's quite controversial actually, because some people don't agree with it, and some people think actually it's a really good way of using your time. So all I do is I listen to it in times two speed. And I think I generally, as you may have noticed, and as people that know me know, that I actually speak quite fast, and I digest information quite fast as well. So listening to it in times two speed means that I can listen to like a 7-hour audiobook in like 3.5 hours, which is far more manageable. So just a quick tip out there for people who are perhaps don't have time. Marium, I know that you drive, so on your drive, I think if you wanted to listen to an audiobook, that's just a way to um finish another book. The times two speed is obviously, um depends on the person, but I definitely recommend listening to audiobooks, because to be
Yeah.
honest, majority of these Atomic Habits, the 5 Second Rule, the majority of my productivity books, and non-fiction books I've actually listened to rather than read. And I think it's been so handy. They're also really motivational, so actually listening to them when you want to motivate yourself kills two birds with one stone, because you're learning and you're reading the book and reading people's experiences, but it also kind of motivates you to get up when you're feeling a little bit sluggish and you know tired or whatever. So yeah, so that's just a little tip. So yeah, what was my list? The Motivation Myth by Jeff Hayden, how high achievers really set themselves up to win. That was one. The second one is Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty. Have you heard of this one, Mariam?
Think like a monk.
Yeah, Jay Shetty.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, train your mind for peace and purpose every day. I actually started this, and then I got distracted and started listening to the 5 second rule, and found I couldn't like multitask. But the first, I don't know, 20 minutes that I heard actually sounded really good, and I've heard really good things about it. So yeah, it's supposed to be I
Wow.
think my mum might be actually listening to it or reading it. But yeah, Think Like a Monk, Jay Shetty is also a good one. Did you just say your money? Pardon?
Can I just say, I've just had a look on Amazon. 13,000 over 13,000 reviews for that Jay Shetty book, Think Like a Monk. 5 stars, #1 bestseller in psychology and mental health. That
There
actually
you
looks
go.
interesting.
There you go. I may have the audiobook, so I'll send it to you, Mariam, if you're interested. Because yeah, because that's like you said. There you go. The numbers really speak for themselves. Did you mention Your Money or Your Life? Was that one that you mentioned?
No, I haven't.
That's another one. So Your Money or Your Life by Vicky Robin. It says 9 steps to transforming your relationship with money and achieving financial independence. So this is about how we spend our time and money, and what it says about us and what we stand for. For me personally, just being financially educated and financially independent is, I guess, for all of us really, but for me, it's something that I struggle with. So books on finances like this one, like Rich Dad Poor Dad, and the other ones that you mentioned are ones that I kind of prioritize. So that's that one. Are you just looking them up on Amazon now, Mariam? I work in a
How do you
bookshop,
know?
so
How do you know?
I disapprove of Amazon. So I yes, guys, go to your local bookshop, speak to your local bookseller, buy them from there, support your high street. But yeah, but just for the sake of reviews and getting the numbers, you could, there's plenty to look at Amazon. The next one is The Happiness Advantage by Sean Anker. And this is the 7 principles of positive psychology that fuel success and performance at work. The Happiness Advantage by Sean Achor, Achor, Achor. So that's that one. That's also on my list. Another one's called Grit by Angela Duckworth, and it's why passion and resilience are the secrets to success. And that's a number 1 New York Times bestseller as well. So, and it's got good reviews. Even Malcolm Gladwell's said it's fascinating and persuasive. So that's another one. And one that I've heard a lot about recently, actually, it's being on social media, is The Elephant in the Brain. Have you heard of that one?
The Elephant in the Brain, no?
Yeah, it's hidden motives in everyday life. I think it's more about like a psychology kind of book. So rather than the going on the productivity side, it's more on the psychology and the behavioral aspect. But that's by Kevin Simler and Robin Hanson. That looks really good. I've heard a lot of things about that. Then I've got Make Time by Jake Knapp, and it's how to focus on what matters every day. So this is another thing actually what I want to go into a little bit. This show has kind of just been a list of recommendations, which is not a bad thing.
What was that latest book that you just mentioned?
Make Time by John Knapp, Knapp. How to focus on what matters every day. This is something again that I've really struggled on a lot. Is I kind of try my best to manage my time well, and I think I'm okay with that. But focus is something that I've really struggled with, and every year I try to have one word that is like the word of the year. And for this year, it was definitely focus, and it's made all the difference actually, because whether it's the power of the word or the intention or just the fact that it's been locked down or we've had more time, but I've definitely been a lot more focused and intentional with the activities and projects that I've taken on. And I haven't read this book, but I imagine that it would help me with the focus. I tend to, it's that kind of thing of, jack of all trades, master of none. I think that really applies to me. I really am greedy for experiences. I do like to try everything. I want to learn everything. I want to try everything. I want to experience everything. And that's, in some ways, I think that's good, but I don't think I don't know, you correct me if I'm wrong or whether you disagree. I don't think you fully benefit if you're just dipping your toe into lots of different things. That's certainly in my experience. As much as I've enjoyed it and I've got a lot of experiences, alhamdulillah, I think it's time, or I would have benefited more from just focusing on one thing and seeing it through. Because another thing with the lack of focus is unfinished projects and tasks. I don't know, Mariam, does that apply to you? What do you think about focus? Does that make sense?
Yeah, do you know if you are you talking about if you spread yourself too thin and then you can't really give justice to what you want to do in your life type of thing?
Give justice. That's a beautiful way of putting it. That's exactly what I was trying to say. Yeah, that's exactly right. So I think that I should actually bump this book. I should prioritize it. Sometimes I have a list and then some books get bumped up. I think that one actually, now looking at it, needs to be bumped up. That might be next on my list after The 5-Second Rule by Mel Robbins. We spoke a little bit about that last week. That's a fantastic book. The principle itself, I'm not exactly sure that it works for me. Basically, Mel Robbins is one of the biggest female speakers in the world. She did a TED talk and just happened to mention this 5-second rule. It wasn't actually the topic of the talk, and it just blew up. And now she is huge, and she's written this book, The 5-Second Rule. The book itself talks about a lot of other things which I think were more beneficial to me than the 5-second rule, but that's another one that I would definitely recommend. It's really interesting. Another one is, and I've heard really good things about this one, is Show Your Work by Austin Kleon, Kleon. And it's what's it say? 10 ways to share.
That's on my list. Sorry, you just realised it's on my wish list as well.
Yeah, it's 10 ways to show your creativity and get discovered. So I think this is a bit more about how to show your work, how to showcase yourself. I think especially with British culture, there's that thing of, even in interviews, like you don't want to be seen as showing off. But in this book, I think he really, really gives good advice on how to showcase yourself, show your work, get out there. So I think Mariam, you do a lot of photography, don't you?
Yeah.
Mashallah. So I think for somebody like you that has that kind of business, I think showing your work and getting yourself out there is quite important. So yeah, show your work. I'm glad that's on your list. We should read it together, inshallah. What else do we have? The Making of a Manager, What to Do When Everyone Looks to You, and that is Julie. I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm going to butcher it. Zhuo. And that's on management skills. And I think with management skills, it can apply to life as well, not just work. I know that a lot of the skills that I learned regarding management applied to family, whether that's you leading a family or I'm the eldest of five, just being an older sibling. I think these management techniques can cross over, so that's on my list. Storyworthy by Matthew Dix. It says engage, teach, persuade, and change your life through the power of storytelling. So the power of storytelling is such a good skill to have. So that's on my list as well.
Story what?
Pardon?
What was the book called?
Storyworthy by Matthew Dix.
Okay, cool.
And then we've got Atomic Habits, which we've discussed. The Unfair Advantage. This is something that I've heard good things about, by Ash Ali and Hassan Kuba. And it's how you already have what it takes to succeed. So that's a good one. Darren Brown, Happy. Why more or less everything is absolutely fine. I think that's really important. It kind of, you get this common theme with all the productivity books about what it really means to be happy. And again, it's a whole subject within itself. But the idea of happiness, of attaining happiness, it's different with each person, but also generationally speaking as well. I think what this generation and our generation is kind of, what we think of happiness is very different to the older generation. And so Darren Brown's Happy looks like a good one. Did you mention this one, Mariam? The Courage to be Disliked. Is that the one that you mentioned? Yeah, that's on. I knew I'd heard of it. That's on my list as well. And I think that's pretty much. If I carry on, I'm going to end up reading to the end of the show, so I'm going to stop there. But that's, inshallah, a few of the books, if you took note, that we're going to be discussing ongoing when we continue the show.
The ones I read out were the ones I'd already bought, but I haven't told you about the ones that are on my wish list.
Go on then, Mariam. People, if you're taking note, take note, and then inshallah, you might even beat us to it. And when it comes to doing the show on that book, you might be steps ahead. So go on, Mariam, go read them out.
Okay, so I've also got The Power of Discipline, How to Use Self-Control and Mental Toughness to Achieve Your Goals, and that's by Daniel Walter.
That's really interesting. Sorry, before you go on to the next one, that's really interesting, because a lot of growing up, I heard a lot of you need to be motivated, but now increasingly, as I read these books and I learn from these people that have had all this experience, something that comes up regularly is you don't need motivation. You're not going to be motivated. You need discipline. Motivation comes afterwards. And so after a lifetime of hearing about needing to be motivated and feeling quite disheartened by that, because sometimes you don't always have the motivation, now learning that actually it's discipline that you need is a real game changer. So that book is good in that respect. I think I'm going to add that to my list. Sorry, go on.
I've also got Switch on Your Brain, The Key to Peak Happiness, Thinking and Health by Dr. Caroline Leaf.
Okay.
So that's another one. I've got another one on Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman.
I've heard that. I think I've heard of that one. Yeah.
And the next one is actually an online lecture that you can watch rather than read the book. The book was formulated after the lecture, but basically this next book is called The Last Lecture, Really Achieving Your Childhood Dreams, Lessons in Living by Randy Pausch. He's a guy who was, he's like a lecturer who was diagnosed with cancer, and then he died eventually, but he gave this really powerful motivational speech about lessons in living, basically, and then it got turned into a book. So if you don't actually want to buy the book, you can actually watch the lecture online. That's by Randy Pausch. #1 bestseller. Another book that was recommended by someone else is called Ego is the Enemy: The Fight to Master Our Greatest Opponent by Ryan Holiday.
That sounds fascinating.
So you were talking about management before, weren't you?
Yeah.
That book about
Are you going to
management.
say Leaders Eat Last by
Yeah.
Simon Sinek? I love Simon Sinek. So you literally, sorry to like jump in there, but I had look and I was like, that's going to be Leaders Eat Last. That's that's on my list. Simon Sinek is fantastic. I highly recommend, or Marium recommends it. Well, I just jumped in, but reading that book and listening to his talks online as well. Sorry, Marium. Sorry, I had to. I really am a big fan of Simon Sinek.
The Power of Habit: Why We Do What We Do and How to Change by Charles Duhigg.
Yes, that's a good one.
This one you probably will have heard of. Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman.
Yeah. I think I have that one actually. I think I have that one in my stash. Yeah, that one is supposed to be really good.
International bestseller.
Yeah.
The next one, I actually wasn't going to add it to my list originally, and then I thought, no, I do want to read it. Thinking in Systems by Daniela H. Meadows.
Okay.
Let me just have a quick look if I can find how to describe what this book is about. So, Thinking in Systems is. Oh, I'm looking at the reviews. So, we can't impose our will on a system. We can listen to what the system tells us and discover how its properties and our values can work together to bring forth something much better than can ever be produced by our will alone.
Wow.
So this book, for example, opened up my other quotes from other people. This book opened. Right. So Marium, I think, is going to be coming back. So just while we're waiting for her to come back, this book says has opened up my mind and reshaped the way I think about investing. Also, another quote here is a wonderful book. Hi, Mariam. Assalamu alaikum. You're back.
Sorry, Mariam. Technical difficulty.
That's okay.
Carry on.
So I was just saying other quotes about that book, Thinking in Systems. A wonderful book regarded as one of the forerunners of the whole systems thinking movement. This clear, fun-to-read synthesis will help diverse readers everywhere to grasp and harness how complex our world really works. Okay, so I'm just going to... Okay, this is a concise and crucial book offering insight for problem solving on scales ranging from the personal to global. This essential primer brings systems thinking out of the realm of computers and equations and into the tangible world, showing readers how to develop the systems thinking skills critical for the 21st century life. So some of the biggest problems facing the world are war, hunger, poverty, environmental degradation, and essentially system failures. They cannot be solved by fixing one piece in isolation from the others, because even seemingly minor details have enormous impact. So while readers will learn the conceptual tools and methods of systems thinking, the heart of the book is grander than methodology.
Wow.
Okay. The author reminds readers to pay attention to what's important, not just what is quantifiable, to stay humble and to stay a learner.
That sounds really interesting. What was that called again?
Thinking in Systems by Daniela Meadows. I've got last couple of ones and then I'll hand it back over to you.
Yeah, go for it. This is really interesting. I hope you guys are taking note. I definitely am.
The Science of Self-Discipline, which is a book by Peter Hollins, and it's about the willpower, mental toughness, and self-control to resist temptation and achieve your goals. So have you ever seen like those experiments that they do with like parents do with kids, and they put something like a sweet in front of them and say, "You can have this, but not yet."
Yes.
It's like that. They are relying on self-discipline because they know they're going to get the treat if they obey like their parents' wishes.
That conditioning, isn't it? Like you said, yeah.
The next book is Finish What You Start, also by Peter Hollins. And this is
I definitely need that one.
The Art of Following Through, Taking Action, Executing, and Self-Discipline. There's another one that I saw recommended online, and then it became sold out because this video went viral. It's called I Could Do Anything If I Only Knew What It Was.
Oh my goodness. I feel, like they say, I feel seen. I feel like these books are like literally speaking to me.
And that's by Barbara Sher. It's about how to discover what you really want and how to get it.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's just about it there.
That's amazing. Jazakallah khair. I hope you guys benefit from these. And if you have read any, let us know. If you have them on your list, let us know. And if you haven't, let us know if you read them. As we said, inshallah, we're going to continue this once a month. Proper like a readers group. So we want all you to get involved. We'll pick a book and then we will discuss it. when we have the show. But yeah, I think the topic within itself is we should always, be trying to better ourselves, whether that be, in business or in life in general. So I think, reading these books or listening to the audiobook or watching the lecture, was it a lecture you said that other Pouch, was it Pouch?
Yeah, Randy Pouch, yeah.
Yeah, Randy Pouch, yeah. I think it's really, really beneficial, especially in an age where we're just kind of drowned in information, really. It's really just filtering it out to find what's beneficial. So yeah, Jazakallah khair. That's really, really interesting. I really, really enjoyed doing this, Mariam. I know that it was something that we kind of decided on slightly last minute. And yeah, it wasn't really a topic that I thought many people would be interested in, but we've had so much great feedback and interaction that I think it's definitely worth carrying on. And it's good for us as well, because we learn from you, we get tips from you, and also encourages us to read these books. I know that I'm definitely motivated now to crack on and with a few of those books that you mentioned. But yeah, I think the Atomic Habits and the 4 Hour Work Week were definitely really, really, really good ones. Just the whole shifting that attitude. I think there's been a massive shift. Obviously, there's so much has changed, technology, social media, but between the generations, there's just been such a big shift in perspective and how people think and how people work.
You
And
know,
so, go on.
you know how you mentioned about doing this once a month?
Yeah.
Rasha Thesir, I hope I'm saying that right, has put once a month sad emoji. This is little.
Rasha Tasid, you agree with Mariam, because Mariam agreed, and Mariam actually wanted it longer. So you guys are on the same page. The reason I said a month is because traditionally a readers group is about a month, because it takes about that long. It just gives everybody the opportunity to read the book. We did think once a fortnight. If we get enough people once a month that have read the book and finished it and had enough time, and they found that they've actually finished it really quickly, inshallah, we could perhaps think about doing it on a fortnightly basis. It's definitely a possibility. I mean, you guys tell us. We're happy to do that. Mariam, do you think you could read your book in 2 weeks?
Yeah, now that you're asking me, we'll see.
Yeah, exactly. So there's your answer, guys. I think we all need a bit more time to read the book. I know, Mariam, bless you, Allah reward you. You are so busy. You do so much. You help so many people as well, and you're a very, very hard worker. So I know that you're stretched for time. So I think for that reason, I think many of our listeners will be too. So I think for that reason, giving ourselves a month is a little bit more realistic. And that's another thing. I've been known to be overly ambitious, naively ambitious with my time. But I'm trying to be a little bit more like sensible. And I think that once a month will be fine. If you guys want it once a fortnight, message us and try and convince Mariam to, like, get a read on. But yeah, that's it really. Mariam, I maybe if I need you to send me that list. Inshallah, we'll get the people on social media to share it. But that's all for now. We've got a few more minutes left, which will wrap up. Just wanted to say Jazakallah khair for all your interactions, all your amazing tips and recommendations. You've been really, really incredible. Do share with people people that you think will benefit, and join us for the Readers Club. We're really looking forward to it, and we haven't ironed out the logistics yet. But Mariam, what do you think about doing 2 hours then? Then
A
at
2 hour
least,
show once a month.
sorry.
A 2 hour show once a month.
Yeah, and that's a bit more, isn't it? And then it'll give us time to really sink our teeth into the actual topic rather than just
Actually,
summarizing. What do you
yeah,
think?
that sounds quite good. I don't know about other people if they think 2 hours is too long.
Yeah, let us know.
Yeah, actually, I wonder what everyone else is thinking. We've got a few listeners. It'll be good to find out what people think. We can trial a 2 hour session, and then if it's
Yeah,
too long for people, then we can probably just do a 1 hour session.
yeah. That's it. And give us if there's anything that you want, if you're like struggling with, if you're struggling with time management, if you're struggling with organization, if you're struggling with work or personal life, help us, and we're more than happy to take what's the word I'm looking for? Fog brain. Take ideas from you and incorporate them into the show. I mean, we're talking about books, but there are so many techniques, as we've mentioned in the show, like bullet journaling and time blocking and so many other things. And Mariam's recommendations are fascinating, but more about behavior and psychology. So that's something that I'm definitely interested in. And like we said, kind of works hand in hand with both, really. Because in order to be productive and to be successful, we need to be aware of how we think and how other people think. So yeah, so it's just a happy. We've got a message as well. Mariam, do you have any messages? I saw one before, but it's off the screen.
Yeah, I've just been putting them on the screen as we go along. Just people making relevant comments.
Go on.
No, that's it. Just been putting them on the screen. Like, do when people are like, "Oh, really enjoy the show." Recommendation. I like the recommendations. People just have conversations. Someone talking about like black seed oil at the moment on the comments.
Oh, we're talking about black seeds. Do share. I can't see them for some reason. I'm not the most techie person, but what's the thing about black seeds out of curiosity?
Oh, I think Niara Griffin is just saying that she sells black seed, and how it's a cure for everything.
Okay.
Stuff. So
well,
good interaction between like at least the commentators. Oh, I can never speak, I can never speak.
That's fine. It's good. it's all good.
And there's a lot of Eid Mubarak comments between everybody on the comments.
Oh, I hope everybody has a wonderful Eid, inshallah. And yeah, I'm just reading the messages as well. Jazakallah khair and happy Eid. Yeah, have a wonderful Eid. Jazakallah khair for listening. Any final thoughts, Mariam, before we wrap up?
I think the shows that we've done over the past 5 weeks, I think this is the 5th show, has really given me a lot of food for thought in terms of, do you know how you always have a plan in your mind for how you want to do things in your life? Now the time has come for you to get on with the things that you need to do.
Yeah.
I don't think that makes any sense.
No, that makes complete sense.
Because I feel like I want to read all these books, but I also know in the back of my head that I need to get on with what I need to get on with, if that makes sense.
No, it does, because actually that's another point, is a lot of the time we think we don't recognize there's a certain type of procrastination that's like disguised in productivity, like, oh, okay, well, before I get on with my dissertation, I'm going to tidy my desk, I'm going to tidy my workspace. And because it's actually a good thing to do, you don't see it as the procrastination that it is. So it's all well and good, like planning and reading these books and all that kind of thing, but one of the main lessons is just to do it. And that's one thing that we mentioned in the 4-hour work week and Atomic Habits, is just to get up and do it. So you're right, Mariam, I think that's a really, really good point.
The illusion of being productive, but actually you're just being busy. But just because you're busy, it doesn't mean you're productive.
Exactly. I know when I was at uni, I do tidying up just became so what's the word? Not attractive, what's the word? But appealing, that's the word. It became so appealing tidying up all of a sudden, like tidying my room and organizing things and tidying my desk and tidying my notes, anything just to stay away from the assignment. And you often fool yourself into thinking that you're, like you said, being busy. But I think the main lesson and the final thought is that just do it, act on it, just get started, make the first step, guys, and inshallah the rest will follow. Make dua, make sure your intentions are good, and just make a start. Doesn't matter how big, how small, but just take the first step. That's my final thought, inshallah. So I think that's it for this year. Jazakallah khair for listening, and assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Have a lovely Eid, Mariam.
Oh yeah, you as well, Mariam. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.